Harry's Wife, Part 102.47. Peterson versus Crazy. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As promised, more dissection of what comes out of the latest Archetypes podcrap. This time we turn to the Mail Online with an article by Rory Tingle. Leads with the headline, Harry's wife says she's been labelled crazy and hysterical as she lashes out at Hollywood female stereotypes and reveals Harry found her help when she was at her worst point. In new episode, Harry's wife hits out at sitcoms, How I Met Your Mother and Scrubs for their crazy women tropes. She also mentions philosopher Jordan Peterson, who said, I don't think that men can control crazy women. Have a word with me, Jordan. I'm sure I can help you in that respect. Harry's wife today used her latest Archetypes podcast to take a swipe at popular US sitcoms, How I Met Your Mother and Scrubs, in a discussion about how the label crazy is used to diminish women's credibility. Well, it can also be applied to men as well, you know, Harry's wife. Crazy doesn't know gender. The fifth episode of the Spotify series begins with the Duchess of Sussex issuing a trigger warning, advising anyone to tune out if they find the content too heavy. Well, perhaps she ought to issue a trigger warning for anybody to tune out if they find it dull and beige. Oh dear, that would mean nobody will be listening to it. Before she then criticises Hollywood for its stereotyping of crazy hot females. Harry's wife describes how she herself has been called crazy and hysterical. I note she doesn't make mention of hot, though, but I dare say she does think of herself as that, before revealing the moment that, at her worst point, Prince Harry found her a referral to a therapist. Hang on a minute, I thought she didn't have any help. Anyway, she says the anecdote shows the need to be really honest about what it is that you need, and to not be afraid to make peace with that, to ask for it. The 41-year-old also speaks about feeling lonely, pity play, and like I didn't fit in, pity play, revision of history, at school, before describing how, as an adult, she often wants to feel so deeply it's like an Adele album. Oh my fucking giddy aunt. Yes, you want to feel so deeply to music that wants to compel you to take your own life, because that's my view of Adele music. It's music to slit your wrists to, surely. But the fact is, to say she wants to feel so deeply it's like an Adele album is demonstrative of just how she actually doesn't know how to feel. She just thinks she knows how she feels because she equates feeling deeply to like listening to an Adele album. Right. But believes she is being conditioned not to show intense emotion in public. What, such like a death stare? Today's 55-minute instalment, titled The Decoding of Crazy, begins by Harry's wife addressing listeners. Raise your hand if you've ever been called crazy, or hysterical, or what about nuts. Insane, out of your mind, completely irrational, okay? You get the point, she says. The Duchess then continues, now if we were all in the same room and could see each other, which invariably is what happens when you're in the same room, I think it would be pretty easy to see. Just how many of us have our hands up? By the way, me too. And it's no wonder when you consider just how prevalent these labels are in our culture. Harry's wife then plays a series of quotes, including one from American sitcom How I Met Your Mother, in which the character Neil Patrick Harris, playing the character Barney, says, if she's this crazy, she has to be this hot. It's a fictional program. People like Harry's wife, jumping on the woke bandwagon, don't want anybody to use their imaginations. They don't want anybody to use humour or take the piss because they find, naturally, that it's a threat to control. And without realising what it actually is, her narcissism, she, and others like her, deem that they are somehow the moral guardians of people's feelings. The fact is, it's a joke that's being made, and if you don't like it, don't watch How I Met Your Mother. The fact is, yes, television and books will always influence people's behaviour, but for most people it doesn't. They're perfectly intelligent and capable enough of realising this is a computer game. I am not now compelled to mimic Grand Theft Auto 4 by going outside, punching the first person on the street, taking their money, and then jacking a car. Most people are capable of recognizing that it's a bug, and that they don't suddenly need to go and grass up their neighbour to say, they've got bugs in that house, call the fireman, this is Fahrenheit 451. Most people are capable of realizing it's a television program or a film, and that Tom Cruise does not habitually run across rooftops in London, knacking his ankle in the process, nevertheless, but it's a film, and it's there to entertain. These do-gooders, these woke-tards, naturally, believing themselves to be moral guardians, want to strip all of this away from people. People such as you listening to me today. They want to take all of that away from you because they are so patronising and condescending that they believe that you're not capable of realising that this is just a book, film, piece of literature, a television programme, a piece of music, a computer game, and you're perfectly capable of making your own value judgment as to what you take from it. Yes, every once in a while we can find some dumb fuck that is heavily influenced by something that causes them to go out and do something that's inappropriate, but what we forget, or rather what many people forget, is that as you can point to that one individual who decided that he was going to try and recreate Grand Theft Auto, the other 100 million people that play it around the world didn't recreate it. A sense of perspective is required. And unfortunately, it is those doom-mongerers, those individuals that take it upon themselves to try and tell you what you should watch, what you should listen to, rather than allowing you to make a judgment for yourself. And they impose their own standards on you through their prism of narcissism, which is, I deem people being called crazy hot offensive because, unbeknownst to that mid-range narcissist, it threatens their innate need for control. And so in order to nullify that threat to control, they have to make moral pronouncements about how television programs shouldn't contain things like this, because then all the men in the world will go around saying, if she's this crazy, she has to be this hot. Most men don't. And even some that do recognise that it's a joke. But this is the problem with the way that the world is going. Anyway, continuing with the article, this is followed by the conservative philosopher Jordan Peterson, who says, I don't think that men can control crazy women. Well, where they're crazy narcissists, Mr. Peterson, what it would be better to say is, don't attempt it. Instead, control yourself and implement a total no-contact regime. The third segment, the article tells us, comes from another American sitcom, Scrubs, in which the fictional female Dr. Elliot, Sarah Chalk, comments, I can't take it, Carla. I can't hide the crazy a minute longer. I'm just this big mountain of cuckoo is about to erupt and spew molten crazy all over him, and he's going to die like this. Again, Scrubs is a highly entertaining program that's very well written, and Harry's wife, devoid of any sense of humour, is unable to determine, again, that this is just humour, and most people can recognise it. After the segments air, Harry's wife says calling someone crazy or hysterical completely dismisses their experience and minimises what they're feeling. No, actually, it doesn't. It's often done in a joking way, and certainly in fictional representations. You, of course, Harry's wife, deem it as a threat to control because of your narcissism, but you don't know that. The article continues. It keeps going to the point where anyone who's been labelled it enough times can be gaslit, into thinking that they're actually unwell, or sometimes worse, to the point where real issues of all kinds get ignored. Well, that's not happening today. At the end of the podcast, Harry's wife read from a poem, Breathe, by Becky Hemsley, which she said was texted to her by a friend and has served as her North Star during Archetypes, triangulation. The strikingly personal passage describes a woman facing contradictory expectations who goes on to find solace in nature. Oh, if only Harry's wife would go and find some solace in nature, the frozen wastes of the Canadian North perhaps. Eventually she decides one day to ask what was best for herself, instead of trying to please everyone else. And again, Harry's wife, through character trait acquisition, believes that she goes around trying to please everyone else, whereas everybody else can see that all she does is please herself. The new release is described as an in-depth and vulnerable conversation with Indian actress Deepika Padukone, American comedian Jenny Slate, and American actress Constance Wu, who bravely revealed how she had once tried to take her own life. Among its revelations, Harry's wife says she's been labelled crazy, hysterical, nuts and insane, although doesn't reveal who did this. Go to my immediate video for a long list of people who may well have said that to her. says she feels pretty strongly about the word crazy and that families have been shattered by its use. Which ones? Takes a swipe at Scrubs and How I Met Your Mother, as well as the conservative philosopher Jordan Peterson. Says stigma around word crazy has a silencing effect, especially for those with real mental health issues. Describes calling a therapist after Harry found her at a referral while she had reached my lowest point. Speaks about times at high school when she was lonely, or I didn't fit in, or there was a rumour about me. Says, I want to feel so deeply, it's like an Adele album, so much intense emotion and you just get it out. Spoke about not having been on social media for a long time. Well, that's contradicted by Tom Bauer, who says she regularly checks the social media and what's being said about her. Actress Constance Wu describes how she attempted suicide and her feelings of shame afterwards. The Duchess says the stigma surrounding the word mad has a silencing effect, particularly for those experiencing real mental health issues. They get scared, they stay quiet, they internalise, and they repress for far too long. At no point while discussing being branded crazy does Harry's wife reveal who has done this to her, but she has previously spoken about feeling suicidal while a working member of the royal family. During her bombshell chat with Oprah Winfrey, the Duchess said her mental health battle left her feeling like she didn't want to be alive anymore, but she was never offered support as it wouldn't be good for the institution. At one point in today's podcast, Harry's wife speaks about the damage calling women crazy can cause. I feel pretty strongly about this word, this label crazy, the way that it's thrown around so casually, and the damage is rotten for society and women, frankly, everywhere, she says. From relationships to families being shattered, the reputations destroyed and careers ruined, the stigma surrounding the word, it also has this silencing effect. This effect women experiencing real mental health issues. What about the men? They get scared, they stay quiet, they internalise, and they repress for far too long. The Duchess cited the word hysteria, coming from the Greek for womb, saying Plato himself was actually amongst the Greek philosophers, who believed that the womb would travel around the body, adding pressure to other organs, which would then lead to erratic and unreliable behaviour. By the way, the DSM, the Book to Diagnose Mental Disorders, hysteria was an actual medical diagnosis until 1980. Slate said hysteria, craziness, like it's a disease of the people with the uteri, like the people with the emotions. What's this keep saying like for? It is a definition created by a man. It's a definition meant to shame and limit a certain type of experience. Then talks about the Ving project. I've already covered that elsewhere. Harry's wife mentioned how Harry had worked with injured veterans through initiatives like the Invictus Games. The Duke made his own public appearance yesterday on a video call with winners of the 2022 Well Child Awards. Don't need to go into greater detail about that. Doesn't really mention anything more about Peterson, which I'll have to wade into that more. But I'm sure that with her commenting about Jordan Peterson, I'm pretty certain that Mr. Peterson will have something to say for himself about that. And why not? Accordingly, we have yet more attempts at the facade management through Harry's wife by looking to defend people with regard to the use of the word crazy, while singularly attacking fictional material which utilises it in the path of entertainment and shows that she has no sense of humour and is a complete killjoy. Undoubtedly, more will come out of Archetypes, which of course I will dissect and explain for you through the lens of narcissism. But let's go below the line for a moment and find out what's being said by those who've already read the article and have observations to make about the way that they see Harry's wife in terms of what they think about it all. And Deborah Lou, I can't imagine going through life looking for all the negatives. She must be so miserable. Najith, constantly focusing on the morbid and mundane and her own voice. Quite honestly, she's already said far too much. There's no stopping obsessed people. Lumel Bingo, well, hysteria is what she causes each time she visits the UK, for all the wrong reasons though. Mike 33333, I thought she wanted to enjoy her privacy in private. Exasperated 2019, I hope she isn't including herself in the crazy hot category. Harry is a brat. Methinks the Duchess is protesting at all the programmes who turned her down. Already convinced, oh, go away, you boring self-centred entitled nobody who abandoned their own dad. Tricky Ricky 77. Who wants to hear a podcast all about me feeling sorry for herself? No thanks. Hill Walker. Harry's wife, the prize Mona. Biddle Bloke. Jordan Peterson is inspirational. Sunhow. Q in burger flipping video. Jane Hates Rain. If Master Philosopher Harry's wife is so smart, why on earth would she need Harry to get her a referral for therapy? Are you telling me she's never had therapy? Hogwash. Where was her mum Doria, who was away when she was growing up and raised by her father? No to EU rule. I love to see her go up against Jordan Peterson in person, but we know she hasn't got the guts. Croxier. So, Harry could find her a therapist after all. Precisely my observation. Number 1 royal fan. I'm so pleased that her husband eventually got her a referral for help at her lowest. He was the one person out of everybody who had all the best contacts to do this, not the Buckingham Palace HR department. Dawny 1. She's always hitting out at something or someone. She's clearly a very unhappy person, as is her husband. PhD. The poor woman has way too many symptoms of megalomaniac behaviour. New Yorker. No one cares. Me Again 1. Irrelevant and sour grapes because she couldn't make it in Hollywood. Silver Bob. This woman has an awful lot to say about everything, but is anyone really interested or listening? I did wonder if she was listened to as a child or if she had a voice. John Host. The world according to Harry's wife. Wow. Please, no more. NP1. What credibility do you have when you have openly asked acquaintances to find you a wealthy, famous husband? Can we have a podcast all about that, please? Nanny Ashtoreth. Harry's wife and Harry fight the world. There you are. That's their Netflix series organised. Won't be watching, though. Sotangalmi. Harry found her a referral for help when she was at her worst point. Thought he said in the Oprah interview he didn't know who to contact to help her or him. Gone Home. It's all about Harry's wife, the expert on everything, really. Paul, perhaps she'd care to interview Dr. Peterson for a friendly discussion. The man's done more to help people than she'll pretend to do in several lifetimes. Medici, anyone listening? No, me neither. Retired Happy, I can't believe anyone is listening to this garbage, let alone taking it seriously. Wokies, your time is up. The rest of us are dealing with real issues. And on it goes. Several hundred comments in a similar vein, all explaining that she's negative, irrelevant, toxic, a contrarian. Someone here, she is the sort that sucks all fun out of a room she walks into. She must be a complete drain to live with. No one cares or is interested. This constant wealthy woke feminism obsession from her is painful by now. She needs more than a therapist. She knows nothing about real suffering. Harry, get out and run as fast as you can. Some free advice. Another borefest. Nobody cares. I bet Harry wished he had a remote control. That's just 8, 9 more comments there. And they're all in that similar phraseology and observations about her. Of course, she just doesn't get it. That how ridiculous she sounds. She thinks it's brilliant work, while the majority of the rest of the world sits there shaking its head, pointing and laughing at her. Undoubtedly, there'll be more to dissect in due course. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.